Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the show where a real statistics professor and his friends give you sports betting tips. I'm your host, Professor Size, and in this episode, Major League Baseball picks on the prices that make for good bets using the predictive mathematical model I've built, affectionately known as Sideline, for games scheduled to be played on Wednesday, August 2nd, 2023. Get in here, check out the webpage on the banner. It's www.pickswiththeprofessor.com/new for some explanations and community rules. Remember, if you're interested in projections of picks for every single game, sign up on Dub Club. That link is in the show description. Cost is under $1 per day. You'll get first five money lines, run lines, totals, numbers needed for A grades, all sorts of information if that's what you're looking for. Or if you're just looking for the A-plus play of the day, that's also where you'll find that. And, of course, exclusive access to our Discord chat. Remember that sports are unpredictable, so the discussion on this show projects a typical game. Is not trying to forecast it to a T, as that would be a foolish and impossible goal. There are no right sides or wrong sides or other prices where any side should be played, whether using my model, another model, or just assessing what the price should be before you see one is probably the better way to do it. This is the sort of thinking that is key to growing your bankroll instead of draining it. There are ups and downs, but it balances out the long run. It's just hard to foresee before it happens. In other words, please understand that good and bad variance will occur, so the long run profitability has been proven. Meaning every single day is an impossible reality for any gambler. Cousin Jared, I talk about, the good variance and the bad variance. And, is it good variance when you back a team that's your favorite team and the guy throws a no-hitter? Is that good variance, I guess? I don't know.
Yeah. I think that would qualify for good variance. And I everybody knows that or if you've watched this show for any length of time, you know that I'm not a homer at all with any of my teams. But yeah, it was a good day to be an Astros fan yesterday for sure.
It was my Justin Verlander jersey for the Mets is now vintage. It's retro now, I guess. After this will be like one of the shortest stints. It'll be one of those things in 10 years. Everyone will forget that he ever played with the Mets because it will be like, just a dust in the wind, I guess, or whatever you want to call it. Very interesting day for an Astros fan, of course. Yesterday, I feel like, I don't know if you're feeling this, because Jared, continued our string of bad luck. Thankfully, overall still profited despite some of the bad luck. Got a little bit of good luck at the end with the Giants coming through for us in a big way as the play of the day winner yesterday, but lost another under in extra innings yesterday. Had the Marlins, of course, lose that in the ninth inning. Had a couple of first fives that fell apart literally in the fifth inning. We were winning both in the middle of the fifth inning, and both of them pushed one, lost one. The fact that yesterday overall was still profitable feels at least promising to me, because it's like, hey, that weird bad luck ninth inning, or first five, fifth inning, that stuff will balance out. It's just sometimes you have these stretches where it doesn't. We had one of these a couple of years ago that was terrible. That was before the show day, so many of you probably not with us. But Cousin Jared, I know you remember that vividly as well as I do. And then it just turned, and then we had like September was like, a 90% ROI or something, just insanely stupid. I don't remember what that was, but whatever it was, it's like how big the fish was, right? It gets bigger over time, but it's about, we talk about balances out. It's just, yesterday being overall profitable despite some of the bad luck, I feel like is a good thing. You get fueled by, the no-hitter, which I feel like we can't talk enough about.
Yeah. And I'm actually glad when we have days like yesterday, because the ones that you remember are the days where you're up big and then everything comes crashing down in like the second half of the day, or like every late game goes wrong. I mean, how many times have we been in that position, especially I think about like college football. Like if we only made plays on the day games in college football, we'd be doing great, and everything falls apart in the evening.
So it's not even the late night games. It's just like the 6 p.m. games, 7 p.m. games. Why? Like it makes no sense. Like it shouldn't be any different in how you handicap that.
Yeah. So anyway, I actually kind of enjoy when we have a day like yesterday where things look like the wheels are going to come off, but then you end up turning it around the second half of the day.
Yeah, exactly. Interesting note today, no pitcher prop on these three games. Look through them, and I didn't really find one I think is worth playing. I will try to find a prop or two and give those out to the Discord so people with me on the Discord if I forget, because I'm working on updates and different things like that. Just ping me and remind me, but I'll get you a couple pitcher props for the Discord, but none of them on show. That's just the way it goes. Sometimes you can't find a profitable angle on any of them. And of the games we picked, there's nothing that I think is worth it right now. But I do think there are some good things to talk about in these 3 games. But of course, before we get to it, some quick reminders. Please hit that like button if you're on YouTube. Also, if you aren't yet, please consider subscribing or following. It's free. And if you turn on notifications, you won't miss any of the MLB, college basketball, college football, or coming this fall NFL content that this channel provides. Because Jared, I had a weird dream last night that I'm just now remembering where I said that, but I said coming this fall, college football, as if we aren't already, as if college football is not your bread and butter. I don't know what to make of that.
Yeah, and it's getting here like more quickly than we would have anticipated. You actually dropped in the Discord, you mentioned what date that we would actually be recording a show, and I was like, wow, that's like. I come on here and I say like once a week, I count down to college football. But when I actually see the date that we're recording the first show, it's like, oh, this is real. This is going to happen, and it's sooner rather than later.
I think that date actually was the second show. I think the first show's a week before that for week 0. Yeah, I think we'll be recording our first show in like 18 days.
Can't wait to talk about Nebraska.
There we go. All right. Well, you can see how I scale picks in the Google sheet that's got the season results, team metrics, starting pitcher ratings, a bunch of goodies over there. That link's in the show description. But as always, the scaling with the picks, take what you like and leave the rest. Got a bunch of day games for you. Not going to cover them today because, Jared, we joked the last couple of weeks for Wednesdays. The games that we picked has been like a nice early afternoon, a late afternoon, and a night game. Today, all the afternoon games, if you're interested in that stuff, that's over on Dub Club. You can cost under $1 per day if you want all the information, all the other games, all the information that we're giving out here, weather, ballpark adjustments, pitcher, everything over there on Dub Club. So that's where you'll go for the day games. We're going to cover the night games, 3 night games here, 6:40 p.m. Phillies and the Marlins. Again, we covered this one yesterday. Marlins just fell apart in the 9th inning, getting some reinforcements with the bats, losing a couple, adding a couple. I think the net is an upgrade for the Marlins offensively. And that's going to help them out a little bit. It's not going to make their offense incredible, but it's going to at least keep them in the around average area, maybe a tiny bit above average at this point. Despite the 9th inning meltdown, I still think that their relievers have a slight edge over the Phillies. Starting pitching-wise, of course, the Phillies have a huge edge here with Zach Wheeler, 3.74 ERA on the season. Underlying metrics suggest it should be even lower than that. But, of course, here's the thing is the model's always had a crush here, it seems like, on Braxton Garrett. Thinks that he's much better than his 4.08 ERA. Wheeler's the better pitcher, but I don't think the mismatch is quite as large as you would think when you look at the names. It's about a 1 standard deviation difference. This seems like a pretty 50-50 contest here, somewhere in that ballpark. We're getting pretty good odds here on the Marlins. It's all about the price, plus 114. Lock this in, qualified as a B grade. Right now, you're kind of eyeing, this would be a B grade, B plus grade, A minus grade, somewhere right in that ballpark. We're talking about mid to low plus 1 teens, get you to that A grade. And again, we're flirting right there with it. Again, locked it in last night as a B, but that's just kind of an arbitrary threshold, whether it's, 1 sit here or there can really make that difference. A strong pick on the Marlins, though, in a game that's pretty close to a toss-up. Model says slight lean to the Marlins. Very so slight, though, that probably rounding error. It's really just all about plus odds in a coin toss game. Cousin Jared, tell us more.
Zach Wheeler getting a grade all the way down to a, what am I looking at here, like a 68. Is Zach Wheeler, according to the model or sideline, like one of the best, like, top 2 or 3 pitchers in baseball right now? I mean, the list of pitchers in the 60s is very low.
He would actually be right now tied with Kevin Gausman for 3rd. Of course, number 1, Jacob deGrom, who I don't know if we're ever going to see him again. It won't be this year. It might not be next year, at least until the end of the year. So, right now, active pitchers is Spencer Strider gets a 65. Wheeler and Gausman both get 68.3s. Fun with rounding there. Glasnow's the only other pitcher that is a sub 70 after last night's performance from Fernandez is, right in that 70 mark as well. So yeah, the model loves some Zach Wheeler, that's for sure.
Yeah. And so, I hate fading Zach Wheeler, but I think it's the appropriate thing to do here because Braxton Garrett had a couple really good this season, had a couple of rocky starts. I was a little bit hesitant, but backed him last week against the Tigers in a tough travel spot for the Tigers. Garrett looked great in that game. So I think he's kind of back on point there and going to pitch well today. So I like the Marlins as well. I think getting plus odds with Braxton Garrett on the mound is big. I agree with you. He hasn't sideline seems to be giving him a lot of respect, but the sports books I don't think are giving him quite as much respect as sideline is, because I feel like, to your point, we've backed Braxton Garrett a lot, and it's worked out for the most part. And again, I think he's pretty good. And he had a rough couple of starts at the beginning of July, but he's definitely pitched better since then.
Yeah, and I think, it's an interesting thing to talk about when you fade a pitcher like Zach Wheeler. If you're not backing and fading good team, we talk about this all the time with the A's, right? And of course, we fade the A's a lot this year because they were actually worse than we thought. But we've backed them as well. We were talking about this before show. We were very profitable fading the A's and very profitable when we back the A's, right? You got to back and fade bad teams. You got to back and fade good teams and good pitchers. It's fun when you have a team that you can just do nothing but fade. We're back, right? We always talk about the Mariners, the Guardians of last year, right? The White Sox fading a little bit this year. We've done a lot of that, but otherwise, you really should, for the most part, be kind of, I don't want to say zigging and zagging on purpose, but if you're not doing a little bit of both, then something's wrong with the way that you process. If you're only backing good pitchers, you're probably not going to be profitable long run, right? You should be doing a process that does a mix of that. We backed Spencer Strider last night. We backed Kevin Gausman. We backed Framber Valdez. So we're going to back some good pitchers. We're also going to fade some good pitchers based off of the price. It's all about the price and the value. And that's really the point we've been trying to drive home ever since I started the show is the price is where you should be looking at making your investments.
Yeah. And I mean, I know for a fact we've faded Strider a couple of times. We've taken overs in games that Strider is starting because there's a lot of other variables besides just starting pitchers. But well said, Professor.
Yeah, absolutely. And so again, it's not that I like, and I roster Wheeler in fantasy, so it's not like I have anything against the guy. I do like the guy. I think he's great, but I think it just goes to show that the model loves Zach Wheeler, says he's right now tied for the second best active pitcher in baseball, and yet says that the price is too high. So I think that says a lot right there. That it's not like the model's doesn't realize Zach Wheeler's good. The model's like, no, I know, gotcha, I hear you loud and clear. Love me some Zach Wheeler too, but the price isn't very advantageous. The Phillies have also been a fairly, disappointing team all season. The Marlins have been a team that have been on average, a little bit profitable to back because they haven't been a sexy name either. So you're kind of also playing into a little bit of exactly what we're going to talk about in the next game, where when you have teams that are over or undervalued in the long run, that kind of plays out. That's kind of, it doesn't guarantee the Marlins win. It just says that this is a good price to invest in, which does take us to our next game. Perfect segue. Orioles at the Blue Jays. We covered this game, Jake and I did on Monday and got the win. We joked about it yesterday, and that game was 3-3 in the fifth. And then the Orioles were like, bye. We're going to destroy you. So we joked about, should you be playing the Orioles like blindly every day? And I don't know. The answer just might be yes. That's might be short answer. Yes, you should. They're good. They're undervalued. I don't know. I feel like we keep saying the same thing about this Orioles team. The Blue Jays have constantly been a team that's been overvalued. Not that they've been a bad team. It's just that the price has been tough. It's been hard to profit on these last couple of years. A good team, just the price has not been there. They're almost being treated a little bit like the Yankees. They are fun to watch, of course, but it's tough to play at the level that they have been valued at. It'll be a really nice night in Toronto. We're looking at low 70s, should be open roof, which is going to make the ballpark play pretty neutral. Grayson Rodriguez, just a fascinating story for him. I think we've seen all extremes of bad takes on Grayson Rodriguez this season, which is he's a great prospect. He's going to come up and dominate. It's not easy for rookies to come up and dominate. So I feel like everyone should tap the brakes there. And we were fading him early because of that. And then he goes down, comes back up, and now he's pitched well in a couple times, and everyone's like, oh, here he goes. He's going to dominate. It's like, sorry, everybody was fading him at first when he came back. He's nothing. And it's like, no, he's going to be better than that. Now we're going the other direction. We're all over the place with the hot takes on this kid. And I feel like the truth is we're always saying somewhere in between. He was never as bad as an early start, but prospects sometimes struggle. Like, everyone just chill. It's like the most lukewarm take possible. But underlying metrics for him, Model still likes. Model still thinks he's an above average pitcher. Kikuchi for the Blue Jays on the slight other side of that, slight edge to the Orioles with the starting pitcher, but it's not by much. It's probably rounding error on any given day. These two pitchers could flip-flop as to who has the better outing. I think both are solid. That Orioles bullpen, of course, pretty incredible. Offensively, slight edge to the Blue Jays. This is another coin toss game. So very similar to that last one. We're going to be in the Orioles here, plus 110, B grade pick here, threshold for the A grade. Probably close to about a dime higher, but the Orioles have been so good to us, so I don't see any reason not to back them. Total, we're also going to play the over 8.5. Model projects 9. Cousin Jared, you got a lot to talk about on this one.
Yeah, I do have a lot to talk about. And, you viewer and listener, rarely do I have more information than what you have. But when I saw this game, something kind of rung a bell with me. And so, Professor, I want to pose a question to you. It feels like we've done well backing the Orioles this year. It feels like we've done well fading the Blue Jays. Could you back that up, or am I off base in saying that?
No, you'd be spot on. If you just look at the A grade picks and the picks that we've covered on show that we've liked here, Orioles backing them 27-14 with a 29% ROI, fading the Blue Jays 18-8. 43% ROI. So absolutely, when we've had edges to take advantage of with these two teams, it's been pretty profitable.
Yeah, so I'm definitely going to be on the Orioles in this game. I think the Orioles. So last year, I think it was the Mariners, obviously, and not so much like we just did everything well, or Sideline did everything well with the Mariners last year. Yeah. The Orioles haven't done, or Sideline hasn't done very well fading the Orioles this year, but. This just feels like the 2023 version of there's always like one team that's better than the sum of its parts. Like, if you look at all the parts individually, they don't seem to add up to a good team, but clearly at this point, the Orioles are a good team. So anyway, the fact that Sideline has just done wonderful with backing the Orioles, done wonderful fading the Jays, and the fact that I think there's just something about the Orioles where all of the individual pieces don't look outstanding, but when you put them together, they just play really, really well for some reason. So I love the Orioles here, and that's saying something when I choose a side over a total, because I am cousin totals here and love a good total. But I think that the sample size that we have and the history that we have this year with backing the Orioles and fading the Jays just makes this, even though it's a B grade, I think you just can't pass up the Orioles at something like plus 110.
Yeah, so again, just got to confirm their official pick is on the over 8.5. We are making both of them, though. Cousin Jared, you're telling us you like the side more than the total on this one.
Yep.
And again, the Orioles have been so good to us. I think maybe a little bit of what you're mentioning there. A couple of things. First off, it's also possible that the parts are just undervalued, right? That there's just a lot of younger guys and a lot of names that aren't quite sexy, and that there is more there than what we're all kind of initially seeing. So it could be a little bit of that. The other thing it could be, and if you've been with us, all season, I haven't mentioned this probably 10 or 15 times, so I might be preaching to the choir here a little bit, but the reason I keep saying it, we have new people coming in all the time, and also it's just a good thing to keep an eye out for the next one, right? We talked about Buster Posey, the impact he made for the Giants. Adley Rutschman has been that for the Orioles, and sometimes when you get a good catcher, you've seen it a little bit with the Rangers this year too. With theirs, when you get a good catcher who can hit, who can play good defense, Patrick Bailey now for the Giants this year, right? It can really make a huge difference, and that's something that the model has done here this year, is up the weight of the importance of a good catcher, both defensively and offensively. When you get like the total package like you've got with Adley Rutschman, that matters a little bit more than I think people realize. And so that's a little bit part of it too, of why there's that, some of the whole greater than the sum of the parts type thing, a lot of it fueled potentially by the catcher. So again, I talk a lot about that, and I think it's important just to kind of keep an eye out for the next one that happens, because there's going to be another one. And if you back the Giants a couple of years ago and Posey came back, for the most part, again, the Giants got the win for us last night. They kind of had a little thunk here in the, last couple of weeks, but the Giants have still been, for the most part, a pretty profitable team to back here these last couple of months once they got Patrick Bailey and the lineup. So when you can spot that opportunity, of course the Orioles again ever since Rushman came up, it can be just a good time to just mostly be on that team. Very rarely fade them, that sort of thing. That's the case here with the Orioles. We're going to move to the night games here. The late game. Oakland at LA got a double winner on this one. Got the over 9 and the money line last night if you're with us on Dub Club. So that was a lot of fun. Dodgers coming through with some late runs. Dodgers doing exactly what we always talk about, which is put up a bunch of zeros and then boom, big crooked number, because that's what they can do. They just seem to do it over and over again. This offense is just incredibly good. A's offense not terrible. The relievers are. Pitching wise, I think this is a pretty even matchup with the pitchers. You have a guy in Gonsolin who might give you a little bit more length than Harris. Of course, Harris might be having an opener in front of him, so be thinking about that with your books if your totals are action or starter dependent. You never know what that's going to happen. So just something to keep an eye on there. A lot of times with totals, you don't get the choice. It's just whatever the house rules are. So just keep an eye on that if you're betting totals here. And the A's use an opener. We don't know if they will or not in front of Hogan Harris. With sides, a lot of places you can choose what you're doing. But I think it's a pretty even starting pitching matchup. Both of these guys have xFIPs in the low 5s. Actual FIPS in the upper 4s. ERAs are a little bit misleading. Harris is about 2 runs higher than Gonsolin, but I don't think that means much. Gonsolin's just trending down, which is what we've been saying for the last year and a half with him. The benefit for the Dodgers, of course, is their offense is incredible, and their relievers are, solid. Again, we talk about a little bit overworked, but there's just a lot of talent there, at least in the relief core. With regards to this side, it would be kind of a B- C+ pick right now on the money line or the run line. On the Dodgers, a lot of people are probably not going to be investing in the money line at a price like minus 285, but the model does say the Dodgers will win this 75% of the time. Yesterday, we set at least a temporary record for sideline, and then it gave the Dodgers an 85% chance to win, which is hilariously high. I didn't know the model could go that high. Literally, I honestly didn't know. At some point, it feels like there's a stopping point. I thought maybe we hit it with 85. Though to be determined. When I run Thursday's numbers, I really think it might actually be a little bit higher than that. Maybe 90% is the cap. I don't know.
But the one game in 2021 where was it the Royals playing in Toronto and had all of their team not playing?
I'd have to look back at that one. Yeah, I don't know if it got to. I don't think it got that high though. I think that was in the 70s, maybe low 80s. I didn't think it got to mid 80s, but that was the one where they had the COVID restrictions in Canada and they couldn't come in.
And that, now that you mention it, that makes sense because you backed the Royals in that game.
Yeah.
And so that does make sense that it wouldn't have got to 85. So okay,
we took some absurd price in that one too. It was
like plus 320 or plus 330. It was above plus 300. I remember that.
Yeah, and I think they won like 2 of those games, or at least one of them, or something.
It was that game.
Anyway, so tough to lay this big of a price with the Dodgers again right now. B- C+ pick, not an advantage. Last time we had an A grade on the Dodgers run line. It was a really great edge with the starting pitching mismatch. I don't think there's a big starting pitching mismatch here. We've been down on Gonsolin for the last 2 years now. This year's looking a lot better with that prediction than it did last year. All that good luck's kind of finally turning around. But the total in this one, model projects 10.1. We're going to start off, even though it's a night game in LA, we're going to start off in the upper 70s, still close around 70 degrees, a little bit warmer than average. Not necessarily, not that it's not, this is common for August, but we get a lot of games in LA where you don't see quite this warmth. Wind blowing out typically does there. It's built into the park factor. So slight bump to the bats here with this weather, not a big one, just a very slight one. Biggest thing is that the A's offense isn't terrible. Gonsolin's not a very good pitcher. A's have a lot of questionable pitching, and the Dodgers offense could score off of, the incarnation of Cy Young, it feels like. We're going to be on the over 9 here. It is juiced a little bit at minus 120. Do love the push protection here. Cousin Jared, cousin totals, tell us more.
Well, first of all, I'll look at the side, and I'm not going to play a money line around like minus 280. I don't feel comfortable. That's too much for me. Even I'm definitely biased towards the money line and not laying the runs, but that's too much for me. And as you can see in the sheet for Dub Club subscribers, lay 1 run, you can get minus 231. Personally, that's still a little bit too much for me as well. I think I would find a place where I could lay a 1.5 and maybe get that somewhere around like minus 145, minus 150, minus 155, something like that. If I had to play a side, I think that's the direction I would go. I would want to lay the 1.5. But yeah, to your point, I like the over 9 here. This is just everything that I feel like we've talked about with the Dodgers and Gonsolin for the past year now. The Dodgers offense is great. At some point, they're going to put up a crooked number in this game. And Gonsolin, it's the A's. So you don't want to say that he couldn't have a really nice outing here, but I feel like he gives up a couple of runs, and then the Dodgers score a lot, and then the Dodgers have their crappy relievers or whatever crappy relievers they may have on the roster at this point, just to mop up the game, and the A's get some more runs late and kind of put this one over. So the side, yeah, you want to be on the Dodgers. I just don't. I think the number is a little bit too steep for me to see a lot of value here, but love the over 9 with Gonsolin on the mound against the not good A's, but good enough to score runs off Gonsolin.
Yeah, exactly. Last night, of course, model like the Dodgers a little bit more, so it'll sometimes make a big play on the favorite, and that's what it had last night. This one just thinks it's up a little bit priced too high. We often talk about money line, the -1, the run line. And I just kind of want to reiterate, a lot of that's personal preference. I think, and I'm going to reiterate, right, I don't think you should ever not play certain things out of principle. If you decide what's comfortable, it's personal preference, right? When we talk about what you should play, I'm kind of talking about, people who are doing this with, more money than Cousin Jared, you and I've ever seen, right? They would be perfectly comfortable playing a -285. Now, again, you have to figure out how to scale it. And that's obviously the big thing. You don't want to just put, half your bankroll in something like that, because that'd be foolish. And no one doing this with large sums of money and knows what they're doing would ever do that. But that doesn't mean they wouldn't play it. But they might also look to split their wager around between other markets, like a run line, a first 5, a team total, something like that too. You're always just looking for the right edge. And it doesn't really matter what the price is, but then each person does have to decide what you're comfortable with. Cousin Jared, I know we've talked about that a lot, that you don't really care for the big minus odds, and that's fine. That's a personal preference. I would not tell anyone not to do that, but if that's what you decide, that's fine, right? And if you want to look to those other markets, I do provide what the grades are for those other markets, just so you can see sometimes there is a little bit more of an edge in one than the other. Usually it's a difference of about 1 or 2%, though. Usually it's very rare that I see one as an A grade and one as a C grade. Sometimes that happens, but that's like a 1 out of 20 situation. So a lot of times it is just personal preference. My caution to you, viewer, on this game, just don't put Dodgers -300 into 5 parlays, and don't put that into like 7 like parlays, right? Because the reward that you're getting is not that good, right? I would still be on the Dodgers. I think it's worth a small investment, but small investment doesn't mean put it in every money line parlay that you do, if that's the type of player you are, because weird things happen in baseball. Gonsolin might get rocked. It wouldn't shock me. The A's offense, again, not terrible. They put up 3 against Lance Lynn last night, who I think at least Lance Lynn has more upside potential to turn things around than Gonsolin does. And so if they put up 3 against Lynn, they might put up 5 against Gonsolin. They might not. You never know, right? Baseball can be weird, but you're not getting a great reward for that risk. So again, I'd put a little bit on the Dodgers, whether it's run line, money line, something like that. Again, we're talking low B, high C grade right now. But again, the smartest pick of this one, I think, is the over 9. We got to it last night. And there's just a lot of ways we can get to this over with regards to, do the Dodgers throw some of their weaker relievers? All of the relievers, it seems like, on the A's are weak, especially now that they've traded a couple of their other guys who had a little bit more potential. Harris and Gonsolin can each struggle. It's just a lot of ways. There's a lot of innings runs can happen across the full game here. And that's our picks for the day. Because, Jared, parting words for the year?
No.
All right. Well, it's August, so again, I think we are 18 days from recording our first show. That'd be 19 days from when it is released for college football. So college football is coming. NFL will be coming 2 weeks after that. We'll be doing the NFL shows with Jake, because Jared, you and I will be doing the college football shows. So we've got a lot of good things happening. Gonna have some promotional stuff here for signing up on Dub Club to start off here, finish up baseball season. If you're not with us yet, you can get a good deal to sign up to get you started over there. So be checking out Twitter for details on that. Otherwise, though, that's all we have for you today. Thanks for tuning into this episode of Picks with the Professor. Don't forget to subscribe so you can ensure the sports betting content provided on this channel dropped right into your feed. Be back again tomorrow with more baseball betting content. But until then, as always, best of luck. And remember, you can get your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.